Hello, welcome to the Matchcast, a brand new match fishing podcast with me, Jake Fowles, my co-host Rich Chapman, and today's star guest Rob Wootton.
Hello, everybody.
So this weekend we've all been out on the bank. We'll start with you, Rich. What have you been up to?
What did I do? I overslept on Saturday, so didn't end up fishing a match. And Sunday, where'd I go? I went to Kerber again, but it was on a different lake this time. It was on the canal pool, which, as the name suggests, is a canal. But it's a bit of a strange one, actually, because it's like 4 separate lakes. So you've got each section's almost its own individual lake. So they've done the canal, but there's just divides between it. It's really bizarre.
They've divided it with a net or banking?
No,
or...
it's like actual spit of land between it. So you're fishing for different fish, and it's bizarre.
A bit like what Barbie Banks used to be then.
Okay.
Because they used to do that. A bit banker.
I've seen quite a few bigger venues split into sections because the fish just disappear down one end of the lake and you just catch nothing one end.
Yeah.
So they split them into, so it's a bit more manageable, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
And also for clubs as well, you book one lake, it's a bit easier.
Yeah, I think they've kind of got the 2 main halves where they book it out as half, but I think there's still 4 individual lakes between that. So it's a bit of a...
I've never been, never even
No,
seen it.
it's a bit of a strange layout. And I think the bit I was on was almost a T-junction, and it's just got a random little arm coming off it, which is only, I think it was 3 pegs long. And I've been at the bottom of this kind of dead arm.
Pleasure fishing.
No, I had someone 2 pegs up, and it was apparently everyone you spoke to. No, it's no good in the section or anything. And I think the whole lake's fished pretty hard. It's been a bit of a weird day where there's been the odd ones on the surface, nothing wanting to feed. You could try and mug them all day, and nothing was interested. Still a bit going around in groups, almost spawny. And yeah, I've not really got anything going, to be totally honest, and it's been a case that you could get the odd bites on the far bank if you sat and waited on hard pellet. The first swim I set up plumbed up okay, but then as soon as you started catching fish, you found loads of random snags and everything in it, which so I had to basically restart my match after half an hour. And yeah, basically sat on that. That's about the only line I could cash on, and it was the most boring day you've ever had, just sitting and waiting 5-10 minutes for a bite, but it'd go with a carp eventually. I think it was about £50 in the end, £51.
What wins the match? What wins the match there?
It was a bit of a strange one. There was £140 odd one. I think there was a £90 that was second, and he was the other end of my section, but in a different lake.
Right.
So I think because he's framed off that, I've defaulted the section. So
You've walked away with a bit of money.
25 quid.
Yeah. Good old default.
But
yeah.
This was kind of one of my strange thoughts I had when I was there, where there's quite a few eyed in there, and you can put a decent weight of them together if you fish for them, but obviously you're taking casters and maggots. And you're almost at the point, because it's a 15 quid match and it's low payouts, is it worth spending if you're spending 15 quid to enter, then spending 15 quid on maggots?
Don't go down this route. I had a chap call me yesterday, and he was asking me he rang me up, he says, I need some information on a venue. I said, look, I've never fished there, but in the summer anyway, I've never fished there in the summer, but in the winter I know there's a lot of silvers, there's some eyed, there's all different fish, and I know there's some carp, but not loads and loads.
Yeah.
I said, if it was me, I'd take 5 or 6 pints of casters, fish casters shallow, take all your silvers, maybe catch some skimmers as well, or some eyed. You'll have a brilliant day, and you'll probably catch a few carp doing that as well. I imagine you'll catch between 50 and 100 pounds. You'll have a fantastic day. And straight away went, oh, that's too expensive, I can't think about doing that. But by doing that, he was guaranteed a brilliant day's fishing.
Yeah.
And he's got a 2 gram pole, he's bought all his gear, the extra 15 quid on some bait. Is it going to...
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because you're almost like...
I know, but as match anglers, we're always looking at balancing the books a little bit,
You feel like you're better off if you've won a match, obviously, by the time you take into account petrol and all the other gear. But if you've spent it on your ticket and your bait for the day, it's almost like you're never going to make a fortune off a open match or anything.
Just got to balance up. What are you going for? Are you going to have a really nice day's fishing, or are you going to win the match?
Yeah.
Or, well, which should come together.
I take the... Because obviously quite a lot of the fishing I do just costs loads and loads of money, I just take the theory now that it's going to cost money, whatever you do.
Yeah.
So unless you win big, you win a big open, or you win a big match, it's costing you money. And you've just got to get that in your head. it's your passion, and it's going to cost you money.
I think that this was a bit of a test in my head as well, because as soon as everyone says, "Oh, you need to be taking casters," in my head, I don't want to be taking casters.
You're stubborn.
I want to kind of prove everyone wrong. So I was like, right, I'm just taking pellets, and I don't know. I'm not convinced either way whether because the lad further down from us, he's fed caster. No one's really caught eyed that day, so it probably didn't affect us negatively. And I could have definitely caught a few more carp if I'd been a bit more patient. So I don't know. It's kind of jury's still out on that one, whether it's definitely need casters or not. So
last year I was talking to a few guys and realised that on your big qualifiers and your big matches, if you just went with a bag of 6mm hard pellets, if you were on the right peg or the right area and did it right, you didn't need your casters or your maggots. But I think it's a bit different on smaller lakes, and you're just trying to nick a section here and there. Casters and maggots are great, aren't they?
Yeah, for getting bites and getting the most out of a peg. I suppose that's the difference between.
And you have a nice day, which is what it's all about, isn't it?
But I don't know what silverfish is. So, so Jake, what did you do this weekend?
So Saturday nothing, Sunday woke up early because if you hadn't heard, I was on TalkSport.
Oh, you've not mentioned this.
So, talking about your football career or fishing or
no, so no mention of leg breaks on there,
right.
But for the fans. So woke up early and I was off to Patsel Park. So it was the opening week at Patsel. Earlier in the week it fished really well. Venue record was broken, £141 all bream.
Nice.
As the week went on, the weight sort of got lower but just became a bit more sensible. I've drawn on the boat, so you're actually sort of shipped out on a speedboat with all your gear on, and you're dropped off in a punt basically.
You fish out of the boat.
You fish out of the boat. All your gear's in the boat. You've got to get G-clamps to clamp yourself up so you're not wobbling, which was a great experience. And I got absolutely destroyed both sides. So
well done.
So one lad's had £40 to my right. The lad to my left's had £19. All bream, he's had sort of 5 bream, £5 a piece, and a few smaller ones to my right. To my left, he's caught a few skimmers. I've been smack bang in the middle, chucking the same distance, doing pretty much the same thing, and I've had £5. An eel, a couple of skimmers, 6 skimmers, a few roach and perch.
Nice.
And that was that. So not very good.
So all feeder fishing, was it? Or
yeah, I've caught a couple on the pole, but it wasn't. To win it, you needed to fish a feeder. But it's a lovely venue, and I'll definitely be going back.
See, I heard this tale of woe probably an hour after the match.
Yeah.
You're telling me how you got bashed up. What would you have done if you went back again?
Not a lot different. I honestly don't believe that I've done a lot wrong. The one thing that I do believe helped the guy to be right, he fed more at the start. Not considerably more, but he fed a bit more at the start. I potentially would have chucked a little bit further just to get a bit of open water past him, but like speaking to him at the end of the match, how we both fished was very similar. It just seemed that a few bigger fish were there, and where I've had sort of these smaller skimmers, like anything from 3 ounce to a pound, he's had some £5 bream, and I think he's just dragged him by feeding that little bit more at the start. In terms of what we fed through the match was very similar. But potentially if I'd have just chucked a bit further, I'd have stole a few off him or just got into a bit more open water in front of me.
Right.
So that didn't go fantastically well. But yeah, enjoyed it nonetheless.
Right.
Something different, fishing off the boat at least, isn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, I'll be going back definitely. Moving on to Rob, Feeder Masters.
Feeder Masters, yeah.
At Ferry Meadows.
Ferry Meadows. Now, Ferry Meadows has been fishing really, really tough this season. Probably last season it fished tough as well. We had one good day last year in amongst a load of rubbish, really, where I think Steve won the match, Phil was second, I was third, all with good weights, sort of over £70. It fished its tits off for a day. This season it's fished really poorly, and we had our team match there. For those of you who don't know, the Feeder Masters run a Super League every year. It's a teams of 4 event, and for the last 2 years, our team, which is the Ringers team, me, Steve, Phil Ringer, obviously, Adam Wakeling, Jeff Ringer, we've won the event, won the league last
Not
two.
a bad little team.
No, it's a nice team. It's a nice team, and we've won the event last 2 years. It's a league spaced over sort of like four or five different venues over maybe 3 months during the summer. And we put a lot of emphasis on this league throughout the year. So we always make sure we can practice the week before. We try and get at least 2 practice sessions on the venue, and obviously Ferry Meadows, we visit the venue quite a lot, so it's almost like a home venue. Went for a practice last Sunday on the Open. We didn't catch loads, but we went without one of our bits of knowledge because we didn't want to sort of give it away. As it was, that didn't really work on the day anyway, so we probably could have caught a few extra fish the week before. Then we went for a day on Thursday as well, so 2 days before the match. We sat on different lakes. We got a couple of other lads to go with us as well, so we can cover a few more pegs. Felt like we worked a few things out, but deep down we knew it was going to be a really patchy day. And we were looking for sort of like one bream a man was going to be absolutely mega, which...
So basically avoiding one guy having really low points. Exactly. If everybody caught a bream, at least you'd be...
Now, as I've always said, in this league, I've prided myself on being relatively consistent.
Yep.
I've not had a bomb out until Saturday.
Oh, no. Knew it was coming.
So it's 15 peg sections. I finished 10th. And when you consider that I beat sort of 5 people with 7 ounce, you can see how hard it fished.
And I believe that's sort of, you see an odd little fish swimming around.
No, I've caught a perch. Obviously fishing for bream. I've had a perch. Reeled a perch back, and
nice.
I've had a little roach. That was my first fish to save a blank, just dobbing it sort of like 5 metres out.
Yeah.
Obviously it's feeder only, and I've had a little tiny chublet doing the same thing. I've seen 3 flashes sort of like 4 or 5 metres out, so I just chucked my feeder down there with a single pinky on just to see what they were, and I caught a little chublet.
Yeah.
I had a heartbreaking moment, sort of like an hour and a half in, when I thought I'm staring a blank full in the face here, and I had a bite, and it was obviously a perch. And I wound it back so slowly from 50 metres out, and then it dropped off halfway back.
No.
And I just sort of had to just collect myself and just fill my feeder and cast out really calmly, because that perch, obviously, at the time...
It's that next cast where you're a bit annoyed with yourself that a big crack off occurs.
But even so, I've caught so many bream late on at Ferry Meadows, especially on the last cast, and what we try and do is we set it up for a last cast, because the last cast is going to be the best chance of the day, so we try for probably a half hour before we're setting it up for that last cast with different chucking out for different periods of time, chucking out different things in the feed, ready just to set it up for that last sort of like 2, 4, 5 minute cast, however we feel on the day. And I had one little tiny indication on that last cast, and maybe if the match finished 2 minutes later I might have got my bream. But if you look at the board, Shane Hodgkinson next to me, decent feeder angler, he had 3 ounce, next to him blanked, and it was just a woeful area. And then there was a pocket of bream for like 3 or 4 pegs. Team wise, we'll go through the teams on the day. Preston Telford won it. Really good performance from them. They're moving up the league now because they've had a shaky start to the league. We finished 3rd on the day, which has actually moved us up into 2nd position in the league.
Because the teams that were above you have done worse. Yes, you've caught them.
So we're sort of like slowly getting there. Next round's at Carmill, which is a bit more of a fish catching venue. At least you'll get a few bites there. We always seem to do reasonably well there, and we're really looking forward to it. Sunday was an individual feeder masters, same venue, Ferry Meadows. Obviously after what's happened the day before.
So 60 anglers on this.
60 anglers, 3 qualifiers. It's split into 20 peg zones. So obviously what's happened on the day before, a terrible day on the Sunday could just about finish me off. My head's about falling off. But I've still gone there. We know we can catch plenty of fish there if there's some fish in front of us. I've drew peg 59, which is a reasonable area. If anyone has watched anything that I did with Joe, we did a video there. It's the video where the dog stole Joe's sandwich.
And
it's those pegs. You were there filming, it's those pegs there.
Yep.
So it's a reasonably consistent area for a bite. As it was, that area's fished quite well. And halfway through, I'm sitting on sort of like 5 fish, 5 bream, thinking I've got sort of £25, the big fish in there, £25, and I reckon I was probably winning the zone at that point. 50 metre cast, bits of worm, maggots, standard bream fishing. But you're having to work for each bite. But then 2 pegs to my left, chap called George on peg 61.
George Robinson.
George Robinson. He's had 4 in 4 chucks, and he'd already got a couple of fish, and that basically, you could just tell that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And he ended up ticking over, and he ended up with 8 fish, and that won the zone.
Yeah, so he finished with £45.
£45, he won the match.
Yep.
Won the zone, and I ended up 3rd in the zone. But 3rd in the match, so I won a bit of money.
So Bob Johnson was 2nd.
Yes.
So he was 2 pegs the other way.
He was 2 pegs to the right of me. Yeah.
£31 and 6 ounce.
And in between, all along there was a lot of 1 and 2 fish.
Yeah.
So there was a block of fish in the sort of like our area.
Yeah.
It was just getting them to settle. And what happened was, 3 of us in a row, our pegs were quite tight. Whereas the guys that have seemed to have caught a few fish, they've got their own water a little bit. So they could just hold the fish for a little bit longer. Because it's gin clear, Ferry Meadows is. You hook a fish and they're so spooky. There's so few of them at the minute that you hook one, and unless they're feeling really confident, they just scatter. Yeah. And you don't string any together.
Is there any smaller fish actually coming through on there?
A few perch. I tell you what, I stood on the bridge. There's a little stream that runs into Ferry Meadows from the Neen, which is where a lot of the fish enter the lake from. And I stood on the bridge, and it's stuffed with roach. Yeah. It's stuffed with roach, but you don't catch a single roach in Ferry Meadows.
Would you catch them on the pole, or?
I tell you what, I think if you went on the pole, on certain pegs you'd catch some roach and some little pommies, some silver bream, but I don't think you'd catch big numbers. I think you'd struggle to sort of put double figures together.
It's a big fish.
It's bream or nothing. It's bream or nothing. And they are big fish, and it seems like they're going around in sort of like a pod of 3 or 4 fish. You'll cast out, and what will happen is you'll cast out, you'll get a little indication, and you've not had an indication for probably an hour. You'll get a little indication, next cast you'll cast out, you get your fish, and then you might get another indication or another fish, and then that's about it. Yeah. It's as if that pod comes in, and then you spook them with hooking a few, and then they're gone. Yeah. And obviously in gin clear water, when a 6-pound bream flashes, it must be so visible to those other fish and just puts them right on edge.
Yeah, big old wise fish as well and everything. Yeah. So.
But a lot of the fish, they're just not in there at the minute. They're in the river, and
do they move in and out?
They come into the Ferry Meadows, and on the good years they stop in there, and they come in there in mass numbers, and then other years they bugger off back into the river.
Yep. So with that then, 3 qualifiers: Pete Emerson, George Robinson, who won your zone, and Will Freeman. Yep. You were 3rd overall on the day, £30 8 ounce. So so basically with that, you actually had more fish than the guy who came 2nd, but he just had a better stamper.
That's right.
Yeah, so right, moving on. So a few more big matches that were going on. Maver match this, Barston Lakes. 97 people fished this event, and Sean Cook won it. So last week, Rich actually said that peg 124 has not been producing. It's not been the peg.
Peg 124 smashed it.
Peg 124 won the match. Yeah. So it's always the way.
Was Sam Brown 2nd?
I don't know.
I think some Sam Brown caught some fish, didn't they?
Yeah, I watched some of the weigh-in, and they were saying he was close. I don't know whether he was 2nd or 3rd, but I think he was definitely.
I think he caught some fish on a pellet waggler, fish on a method on his pellet line, didn't he? On a short-range method. Some big fish. 116, I want to say 118.
Yeah, it was in that
like
same section. But
I'm sure he was 2nd in the match.
He does well in all them qualifiers. He's a.
He's always there or thereabouts.
Yeah, good angler.
Yeah, so Sean Cook won it. Peg 124, £147 8 ounce.
Saying that, I think did Guru run a little festival on there? Yeah. And Andy Kinder, I'm sure, drawn 124 the day before, and it had been shocking. And he'd not had a lot off it, and then I think the wind swung round, and obviously they've moved.
Andy Kinder didn't draw an end peg there.
I think he did.
Andy Kinder drew an end peg.
I think he drew 121 or something the next day as well.
Wow. What a shock.
Right, moving on. So, Riverfest, River Neen. 55 anglers fished this. And so, Gavin Butler won the match and was the qualifier and was one of the qualifiers. Matt Derry also qualified, and Stuart Northrop. So, Gavin caught £19 10 ounce bream on the feeder. Matt Derry was 3rd on the day. £8 5 ounce, and he caught 1 bream and some roach on the pole. And Stuart,
in the same zone as my mate Sam.
Was he?
They beat him by 2 ounce, I think.
Right.
Yeah, my mate, little Sam Merritt.
Yeah.
Same zone as him, and Sam had his bream, bit like Ferry Meadows. He rang me last night, and he was talking to me. How do I catch these bream? Because I had bites in the sort of like the last 20 minutes, I had little indications, and then I had one, and I if I could just caught another one during the day, I'd have qualified.
Yeah, 'cause it was a close, not massive.
Because
weights
they're
and-
the same. They're the same fish from Fair Meadows. It's miles and miles away.
Yeah,
But they're the same fish.
yeah,
You know, they travel along that river for miles, and they stay in one area. Then next year they're somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're the
Yeah.
same fish.
yeah. And then the Zone C. So Stuart Northrop, who won Zone C, won that with £5.12 of silverfish on the pole. So the Neen there. So it's a few different methods have ended up being needed to win or qualify. And it's not been silly weights to do it either. It's not been just bream weights, or it's not been.
Have you fished the North Bank?
I've never fished it.
Haven't
No.
you? I used to fish it quite a bit as a junior, and we'd turn up and we'd go to the pub, Dog and Doublet, the pub is, and we'd draw at the pub, and we had a junior and national on there as well, so we spent quite a bit of time on there one year, and I always remembered this big grass verge and this really wide river in front of me, and when I was a little kid, I'd fish a little one down the middle of it and catapult maggots, because I had a sort of a 6 metre pole, that was it. And a couple of years ago, I was coaching someone at Decoy, and my sat nav took me along there because there was a bit of traffic in Whittlesea. So my sat nav took me along there, and I didn't realise that it was the same river, because obviously everything in your mind's just skewed as an adult.
Yeah,
And
as
the
a kid, you
verge-
were thinking it's
the verge-
so big.
The verge, it's gone from this little quiet road that you couldn't shoot your pole across it, but
Yeah.
you didn't feel like in any danger at all. It's gone from this little quiet road to something that's like the motorway,
Yeah,
and the verge has gone from, that was in my head sort of like a 10-metre verge, is now you can hardly get your car on the verge. So yeah, and the width of this North Bank, which I remember fishing the national on it, I threw my balls across because I made ground bait balls and chucked them across, and I caught some bream on the day. I was second on the day in the junior national, and I chucked some balls across the river, and it was like a stretch to chuck them across. And so I'm thinking it's sort of like 35-40 metres wide, and it's like 25 metres wide maximum. It's just everything seems massive when you're a kid.
You do it
Yeah.
though. Like other venues, like there'll be a feature, an island you're fishing to. When you're a kid, it seems miles away.
Yeah.
You go back and you're suddenly like, oh, it's just a little flick.
That's
and
it. Yeah. I'll
There's
tell you what,
cer-
distance sticks have massively opened all that up when we
Yeah.
go sticking things up.
You do that, don't you? You go, oh yeah, it's easy, 30 metres, chucking 30 metres, I was chucking 40 metres, you clip it up 25.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do the same thing. I've been to venues that I turn up at now with features. I'm like, I've been here before, and it'll have been somewhere I've been as a kid, whether it's been on a national or whatever it might be, and you turn up, you don't recognise that you've been there, you've just gone there as a kid, and that's it. So that was Riverfest. Gavin Butler, Matt Derry, Stuart Northrop qualified for the final there. Loads more qualifiers to go with that. That's one that's later in the year. Fishermania practice match. So, Jamie Hughes has won this, surprisingly.
Yeah.
£276. It was all down the forest bank, or the
wooded bank.
Wooded bank, yeah. Perry Stone jumped on the match. He came second, £226,
Yeah,
and Jordan Holloway, so another person in the final, was third with £187.
Yeah.
Sections being won with £99, £92, £103, £52, and £89. So that's fished well, but pegged very differently. They were all down one bank. There was 20 odd of them on. Obviously, on the day, the whole lake's in with the main event. There were women and the youth, or the youngsters.
But I think there's a bit of a story of Jamie's match as well. I was chatting to him afterwards, and about an hour before the end, he was on the phone, had his headphones in, and I think he's gone to catapult out some bait and somehow wrapped his headphones in his catapult elastic. They've gone in,
Pinged him out with the 8mm.
Yeah, so he got his headphones in the lake. His phone's dropped in the lake, like just in front of him. This was about an hour before the end. So he's
picked up his phone and all the carpet back in his hand.
he's not even bothered fishing for the last hour. We're sorting that out. He's messed his swim up, and then obviously last 20 minutes he's just started packing up because he's loose fed a phone and trying to sort that out, dry it out.
So he's weighed that, won the match by £50,
and not fished for the last hour.
How, does anyone know how the match was pegged?
Every other.
Every
It
other,
wasn't the
every
end,
other
was
peg.
it?
No, he was pegged 52.
Yeah, I just don't know how far they went down. Or just on the we had a practice match at the Maven match this one. I can't remember. We were all on the forest bank, and I can't remember what the end peg was. I don't know the number.
Yeah.
I know I was the end peg, and
Yeah.
I had sort of like £200, and that won the match because it was the end peg.
Yeah.
And then next to me was the next best weight. And I don't know whether that reads as similar
Yeah,
to that, but
it looks like there were
I'm
plenty of
I'm
fish in that
terrible at
area.
remembering
Yeah.
numbers on venues
Yeah.
as in peg numbers.
It's different pegs for the final
Yeah,
as well,
it's
isn't
totally
it? Different numbers and everything.
Yeah, so I think they're where last year the women were. So Jamie was peg 52, Perry was peg 50, and Jordan's peg 46. So it looks like there's a lot of fish
Yeah.
between sort of 8 pegs.
Changes so fast on that
Um,
venue, though.
I
Well,
think
between 6 pegs, they've caught £700
Yeah.
between them, sort of
Mm,
thing.
yeah.
So.
it sounded like it was pretty much all mugging.
Was it?
Like pellet waggler, all that
Right.
kind of stuff. So I think it just depends on the weather, I guess, for next weekend or this weekend, as it were.
What we're thinking on the weather, what is it going to be? Sort of
It's-
overcast,
It's
sort
saying
of,
like
looking
21s,
warm, isn't it?
22s,
but not bright sun.
Yeah, bit of breeze on there as well. So it kind of. It was saying last time I looked, it was saying like 10 mile an hour
Okay.
with a few bigger gusts. So,
So it might
there's
be
going
a
to be a ripple on it.
2 foot, 3 foot deep waggler if they're going to fish
Yeah.
waggler. Right.
Yeah.
'Cause it's all a bit different on there, isn't it? It's like the fish it's static and all
Yeah,
sorts.
yeah,
on
of
there,
course,
so.
Yeah, so you've been there, you've done it, not in the Fishermania, but the Maven Matches
Yeah.
final.
So I suppose summertime. It was a little bit later in the year, but it's summer.
Yeah,
It's summer.
yeah.
Isn't it?
Historic. I believe that's the biggest amount of money won in match fishing.
Is
Ever?
it?
Maybe.
Little
It
smile
might be.
there.
Maybe.
It might be. Yeah,
I,
it might
I've
be.
not, I'm not. I don't know that. So if anyone can
I'd
say
say
any different,
definitely in
but
the UK. It's gotta
definitely
be.
from what I know. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not classing the Bassmaster Elite.
No,
are we?
well, that's not. No, traditional course match fishing.
Yeah, we can say that.
I believe that £70,000. You were there.
Put
Hayfield
that on my
Lakes.
headstone.
Yeah, not quite yet. What sort of mindset does it take to do that?
I think you have to be able to cope with the pressure a little bit, be nice and calm. I sort of almost kid myself that it doesn't really matter.
You are so laid back.
In
You may as well be lying down, mate.
in a competition like that, you've got to be able to focus on what you're doing. I think match fishing is massively about your decision making on the day, because we can all fish the methods now. We all know what we're doing, apart from the few little tricks that people do. We can all chuck a bomb out. We can all chuck a method feeder. We've got molds for method feeders. We can all do it. It's just knowing when to do it at the right time. So it's all about your decision making. And for years, I'd get into big finals and almost try and come up with a really set, solid plan, because I'd feel that, when you're a bit younger, sort of like your mid-20s, and you're full of it, but your nerves can still get to you because it's a big event when you go and fish with these, especially in Fishermania early years. When I was fishing those finals, there was nothing else, so that Fishermania was the event. So you'd come up with a set plan, because you knew that on the day you wouldn't be able to think as clear as you normally would on a normal match. And also you knew that there was so many things going on around you, crowds, cameras, you were just never going to be able to focus as well. But as time goes on, you get experience, and obviously what you see with some of these guys now, they've got the youth and the experience, because there's so many matches now. You get your experience, and you're able to think a little bit straighter under pressure. And that's what I think in a big money competition you've got to do, because I've seen guys totally overlook the obvious in some of these matches. Totally overlook
because they're in that zone.
Because they've been in practice the week before, caught some fish on a set method.
Yeah.
But they're totally overlooking the obvious, that the wind's perfect for catching fish short, or some, method feeder up against the island's going to work. All these things that if you would turn up on a normal match and sit down and make your decision as the day progresses, you wouldn't be doing those. You wouldn't be making those mistakes.
Yeah.
But because of the big event, you've made those decisions.
So those people that have been there at other finals in the past, you think they've got a bit of an advantage, or quite a bit.
I just think anyone who's good for big events, and I always remember when Tommy was looking at you moulding that feeder team, he understands, because Tommy Pickering is a man for big events, and he understands the pressures needed. And when you look at the team, it's anglers who can win or can keep the nerve in a big event.
Yeah.
You can teach people the methods, You know, some people are naturally going to be a bit more athletic, and the hand-eye and the speed's going to be better. So obviously, if you can get all those combinations with people who have got the right mindset, it's perfect.
Yep.
So with the whole pressure side of things, do you feel it was a bit, with Maver just being the one weigh-in at the end, and obviously Fish owes your hourly weigh-ins or half-hourly weigh-ins, did you actually know that you were close or that you were leading in your head? Because obviously everyone tells the odd fib, oh yeah, you're ahead of us sort of thing.
I was really fortunate on that day because I had Andy Power on my left and I had Chris Cameron on my right.
Yeah.
And we were obviously on a pocket of fish. And that, because the anglers were so close to us,
Yeah.
we were able to keep tabs on what the anglers had got. So I always remember Andy Power having some smaller fish, and I've got Sean Huggins with me, who's pretty good at weighing things up, pretty calm as well under pressure. And I always feel I know what anglers have got either side of me, because it's just the game. You've got to know all the little things, and it's just another tool in your armoury. So I didn't think Andy had got what he'd got, but Chris had a couple of fish late, and his fish were big. So it was one of those where I'm sort of going into the last half hour thinking I could do a couple of fish here just to push it over the edge. And as it was, I caught one, you know, literally on the hooter, sort of like 30 seconds before the hooter.
Yeah.
The tip's gone round and I'm playing the fish. As it happened, that fish, I think I didn't need it in the end when you look back at it. But even so, as soon as I got off my box, because what had happened the year before with John and Jamie, they'd fished for fish all day, and it was so close. No one could have called that match.
Mm-hmm.
And that was ringing in my ears a little bit. So I got straight off my box, because again, this is, you know, it cost me money long run, but it was me thinking, because I'm obviously thinking about the situation. I'm you know, you're in sort of a zone, you're thinking about the situation quite clearly. I got straight off my box, walked over to Chris. I said, Chris, this is close between me and you. Whoever wins this gives the other one $5,000, because you get $5,000 for coming second anyway. But to walk away with 10 is quite nice. You know, 10 grand's it's a nice day, isn't
Good
it?
day's work, isn't it?
And to walk away with 65, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's still brilliant.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not all about the money. Obviously, you want that lump sum.
Yeah.
But the difference between 65 and 70, to me, it's not.
But
But
then
if
there's a
you were
massive
second-
between
Yes, of course.
$5,000 and $70,000. So
Yes.
that's where you were thinking there.
So if I could walk away with 10 grand for coming second, or if Chris could walk away with 10 grand for coming second, that'd be amazing. So first thing I did was walked up to Chris, said, Chris, first place gives the other one $5,000.
Which was great for my mate Steve Ford, who I fish with, because they had a bit of a deal
they?
as well.
Did
Yeah,
they?
so he got a bit out of
Well,
it.
Chris looked at me and he said, oh, let me think about this. I put my hand out. I said, Chris, shake my hand. There's nothing to think about here. There's nothing to think about. And he just put his hand out, shook his hand. And obviously, I paid him within, you know, we went to Ireland that night, me and Lee Carey, to fish the World Pairs.
Yeah.
And I paid him while I was there in Ireland, just sent some money over straight away. So it was, you know, it worked out brilliant in the end.
Yeah.
I don't mind losing those bets.
No.
They're great.
No, not when you've gained 65
No.
grand. That's it. You were nothing at the start, 65
So
again. So
I did feel that I was ahead of Chris, but it was one of them where it could have just gone against me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to stack the odds a little bit.
yeah, fair enough. So a brilliant lineup of anglers fishing. Who is your money on?
Firstly, it's very rare I bet on anything I can't control.
Yeah, so you said to us a little bit earlier today, well, just before we started, you would want to be there at the event, see the conditions, see who you think it's going to favour.
I would want to see
know.
the conditions, and I'd just want to see the draw as well, because I think, especially with big carp and big lakes, you've got to look at an area of the fish do tend to sit in an area.
Yeah.
Now, I think the venue, how it's going to be pegged, you can't really look away from those sort of same pegs that kick up each time.
So that's at 2021.
The 2020, because the crowd do the same thing. The cars rumbling at the same time. The pegging's the same. Everything's the same. And it's that situation. And I know they're, in particular at Hayfield, they are reasonably consistent pegs anyway.
Yeah.
But you know this from travelling around on big qualifiers. It's not necessarily the best pegs on the lake that qualify in Fishermanias, and it's because in an open match it's pegged one way.
Yeah.
in a club match it's pegged one way, and then when a Fishermania rocks up, it's pegged a totally different way. The pressure's different on the water. It pushes the fish
So
into a
then,
different
that for
area.
some reason, have a bit more room or a
Yeah.
bit of a safe haven
Yeah.
within the peg, just sort of helping them tucked in behind that island. Just
Exactly.
seem to
Well,
hold
I
fish a bit
suppose
better.
even down to how people are fishing and what methods they're using. I
Yeah.
think going back to Jamie and Winnie, that was a kind of prime example where one fishing in the short pole, one fishing
Yeah,
the
they
feed
didn't
to the
cut each
island,
other off, did they?
but no one kind of dared.
It's almost
to
like they had an
move.
agreement.
Yeah, and like someone changing was going to affect the other
Yeah.
one, so someone had to make the decision eventually. But yeah,
Yeah. So
I think
go on, give us three.
No, what I'm going to say is experience counts,
Yeah.
as I've just said. So the people that are used to fishing these big events, your Will Raisins, your Jamie Hughes, Andy Bennett, those people are obviously the people that you'd be thinking, God, they're good. Andy May's, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy May, yeah. I'll tell you what, suit Andy May down to the ground. Andy May, those sort of people, it suits them perfectly.
Yeah.
Used to big events, used to fishing different styles, because obviously there might be some guys there that they might not pick up a rod and line.
Yeah.
They might not pick up a rod and line all season, and Hayfield sees a lot of rod and line work. Fish
Yeah.
aren't daft. You need to be doing it right to catch some fish. So those four guys, I'd say my picks, depending on where they draw. And I'd
Yeah.
love to go on the day, walk up to the bookie after looking where the wind is, and pick one of those guys.
Yeah.
That would be my plan of attack.
Nice.
And anyone who's not going and is local-ish to there and have got a spec side there, they ought to go because it's a good event.
It is,
Because
it's a
obviously
brilliant
Hayfield put on a good show. Nolly's fantastic. She does loads of promo. There'll be stands there and all sorts. It will
Yeah.
be a good
it's,
show.
it's a proper venue for it as well.
Yeah,
isn't
it is,
It
it
So
is,
it's
it is.
like it almost feels more like a golf club or something
It
like
does,
that.
yeah.
Proper
Yeah,
bars
you've
and
got
everything,
a proper
restaurants, all
pub
that.
there. We'll be there. We're
Yeah.
going up on the Friday night to be at the draw.
Right.
Going out for a meal with everyone on the Friday night, and then we'll be there on the
Yeah.
Saturday. So anybody that sees us there, let us know what you think of the podcast. Let
Or
us know.
just come and slate us.
yeah, and just
If it's negative, don't
Yeah.
come
Yeah,
over. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. We'll just walk off. And finally, guess the weight. So I'm going to go and say that the
It's in
winner.
kilos, is it?
Yeah, so I'm going to go 59 kilos.
That's a good shout.
So
That's
I think
a good
so
shout, isn't it?
Based on history.
roughly somewhere between 125, 135 pounds, something like that.
I reckon it's very weather dependent. I reckon it could be like 140-ish, whatever that works out. If there's someone on a
so
few muggers,
About 65 kilos,
yeah,
something like
we'll
that.
go a bit higher this time.
What did you say? How many kilos?
I said 59 kilos.
What have you saying? 50 in kilos. What are you saying?
65, yeah. We'll go 65.
Gone
Oh,
close
I want to
there,
go in the middle, but I want. What did you say? 59.
59.
Will Raisin's there, isn't he? If he gets on a few,
200 kilo.
He'll slay him. You said 59.
59.
I'm going to say 58,999 grams.
Oh,
he's
horrible.
undercut.
Not very
That's the,
sporting.
that's the
Go around.
competitiveness
Yeah.
coming through.
That's like one of these.
That's shaking his hand
That's
before.
a Chris Cameron deal. Yeah. Right. With that, we'll leave it there. We'll pick it back up with Rob's life in fishing.